There is other type of data that's Boolean data type. Boolean either true or false. Some things that we use in conditions. If something is true, then this. So sometimes we want a result to be true or false. जैसे कि मैं यहाँ पे example दो, is Umar Bashir present in the class? The answer is yes or no, true or false, true. Let's say is some, for example, Ronnie Coleman in the class? No. So there are true yes or no values for some things. They are called Boolean data types. So they either take value of true or they take value of false. So for example, in the code itself, we can mention is valid is equal to true, that this value is true basically. So then we have none type as well. So by none, there is a keyword. There is a keyword none defined in the Python. If you remember what previously we discussed about the keywords. So you can also describe this none variable. That means it has none type. Basically, if you want to say there is no type involved in, you usually say it's of none type. It basically is a type. So if you see, this is some sort of what we can say. There are some things like that. I just forgot the name. It's a paradoxical thing. This is the none type. It is a left type. None means basically nothing. It's a paradox. So none basically means nothing, but there is a type of nothing. Okay. So I think you got the image of this thing clear, how many data types are present there. So again, just showing you the table. So we had numeric data type in which we had integer, we had float numbers, we had complex numbers. Then we had mappings in which we call it the dictionary. Then we had booleans as well. Then we had sets in which we had a simple set and a frozen set. Then the sequence type, we had strings, list, tuple and a range as well. Okay. So from this, you sort of have that bird's eye view. Okay, what are the types of data that we can use in Python? And then we'll see how to take input from the users, and if we want to take input and want to perform some operation on the input, how to do that. Okay. So because developers, we usually frequently have to engage with the users and we take input. For example, right now, if you are going on the website, you search something and then you press an enter, you search on something. That search is actually an input that you give to the YouTube search engine or the Google search engine. So you have to learn how to take inputs. Okay. Python basically offers two functions, but one of them is actually deprecated. So I haven't mentioned that here. Probably we'll also discuss that thing, but it will show an error in Python 2 version 2. So there are two inbuilt functions by which we take the input. The first thing is this input function, and the second is raw input, if I have mentioned it somewhere. Let's say here. So we have two functions. The first function itself is input, by which we take input, and the second function is raw input. Raw input. So by using these two functions, we can take input from a user. And this is supported in version of 2, and this is supported in version 2 as well as 3, this input function. But this has been deprecated in version 3. As I told you, I am using the Python version 3, so this value, this raw input is deprecated in my system. For example, if I go to the code, I'll say how to take inputs. So here you will say, for example, user input, please enter your name is a prompt. So it is showing me, please enter your name. Let's enter some name. Let's suppose Alice. Okay. Let's give Alice, let's suppose. Without the quotes, you can give without the quotes, it doesn't matter. Okay. So you can see like it got entered. Now you can even print after this. So user print, let's say hello Alice. Hello, comma, and then we'll say user's input. Okay. So again, it's asking me name. Let's write now Zubair. It should say hello Zubair. So it printed this because I stored an input in user input, then I printed it. Okay, my screen is visible. I'm just testing if the screen is visible. So this is the first how we take inputs. Second, we have this raw input. But as I said that if I want to check what is the version of my Python, there is a function. I think there is a function Python dot version. So this is the function which I can call so that to get the version. Python 3, I think. Something is happening. So, but you can type. This is the function by which you can type the version. And usually I have, but like Python 3 is installed in my machine. I think I can use the terminal, but I think it is not visible in here. So you can take it, take the word from it that I am using Python 3. So this raw input won't work for me because this usually works in Python 2. So let's say. So I was saying that my version of Python is 3.9 or something. So I cannot use this raw input function. So if I just press this, you can see the name raw input is not defined because this is defined in Python 2. As you can see here at the top, I have Python 3 IPy kernel if you see it here. So this is not supported any longer. So it has been deprecated because Python 2 deleted it. So we now use just this input function to take the input. So how this input function actually works? Let's see that. कि ये काम कैसे करता है input function. So the first thing is when we call this input function, it waits. Okay. तो ये क्या करता है हमारा input डालने का wait करता है. Then whatever is input, it treats it as a string. If you see it right here, so what happens is it is treating everything as a string. So जब input में कोई भी value जाता है, it is as a string. So it does not also do any express evaluation. So if you see the print, so what is the difference between input and other functions? अगर मैं यहाँ पे just block, if I write print 2 plus 3, what will it will do? It will give me 5 because it will evaluate this expression. So if I just print this, it will print 5 because it's evaluating this. But if I write input 2 plus 3, it won't evaluate it. Okay, let's just run it. For example, I'll run this. I'll say 2 plus 3. It won't evaluate anything. It will just, so I'll enter it. So it just gave me as hello 2 plus 3. It does not evaluate it. So that's a big difference between a print function and, because print function usually it evaluates the expression. When you give it, it evaluates it. But as you can see it here, it does not evaluate it. Why it does not evaluate it? Because the thing is, actually you are not seeing my screen. You should ask, I'm coding something, you should ask, we are not able to see the screen. So what I was telling you here is, for example, if I write a print statement here, print 4 plus 9, let's suppose, like 4 plus 6. So when I will run this line, so it will give me answer as 10. So you can see there was an expression inside, 4 plus 6 is an expression itself. So it was evaluated first and print statement, it printed the number 10. But if I say give the same input to the function input, what I am saying is that it won't evaluate it. It will give the answer as it is. For example, I'll now write 4 plus 6. So it won't evaluate it. It will say 4 plus 6 as it is. So the first difference that I'm claiming is that the input function, I might have mentioned it somewhere, it gives us back the string always. If you see it here, it gives us back the string. It does not evaluate it. Okay, but it is a stopping function. By stopping function, I mean whenever you take input, it will stop there. It won't let anything happen. For example, here you can see it. I have print hello and I'll say, let's say print AI course.
So code is not visible to us.
Nice. Okay, now code is visible. Huh? I'm just writing this print AI course. So what will happen is, till I don't give the input, it will stop me here. That's why these are called stopping functions. Input is a stopping function. It won't let me go to any other statement till I don't enter something. I'll enter 5 and then it will go to this print AI course, print hello and something like that. So it will halt for us for the time till we get to give it some input. Okay. Now the thing is, we don't have to take strings always. The natural question arises that we don't have to take the input as strings always. We need some numbers. We may need floating point numbers. We may need dictionaries as well. So what to do in that scenario? If you want to take an input as an integer, so for that we have what is called as typecasting. So we need to change the type. So typecasting is a method of converting one data type from other. Like in simple terms, if you want to convert integer into float, you can do by that typecasting. Typecasting is a method, or typecasting is a way in which we can convert one data type from another data type. So basically it can also be called as data type conversion if you see it here. Okay. The first data type casting is typecasting to integers. So if I am taking the string value, I need to convert it to integer. So what I'll do is, I'm just writing a function int. Okay. If I take string 5, as I told you that if 5 is in quotes, it means it's a string. So when you write this int in braces, so it will get converted into integer. So let me show it programmatically. So we'll say from here, let's suppose I'll just add a cell. So for example, I wrote a is equal 5. Okay, now I'll print type of a. What is the type of a?
Again, stop.
Nice that you are mentioning. Nice. Okay, a is equal, here I am, a is equal 5. I mentioned it as a string. If I just print it, so it will say, here we have missed one phrase. So it will say class string. The a is of class string. But if I want to typecast it, typecast means I want this 5 to get converted into an integer. What I'll do is, I'll say int of a. Because now a has the value and I'll assign it to a. Now I'll print it and you can see class int. So basically I changed the type of integer which previously was a string to integer. I changed the data type of string into an integer by using this function int of a, and I did an assignment over here. Similar thing, because we are getting from input function, what we are getting is we are getting an integer. If you see this line, so here I am saying input an integer, but as I told you that input function returns, it gives back a string value. But I need to change the string value into a number. For example, let's go here, and I am 50. I am giving 50. Now if I enter it, it will change this integer value into 50. That's why I'm saying int of user input. Int of user input means basically this user input initially was a string when I took the input, but I have to convert it into integer and assign it to this integer value. So this is what is called a typecasting to integer. Similar things are also available in float. So you can do a typecasting in float as well. So for that we have a function float. So we'll write float, and then in between what data type we have, it will change into float. Okay. Then we have also like int, float, and then we can basically change some things to the string as well. So if you want to change a number to the string, you can just write string method. There is a method of string as well. So I hope the typecasting is clear. If you have one type of data and you want to convert into other type of data, okay, you can do that. But a natural question arises: can we convert a string if it is ABC? Can we convert it into an integer? We cannot, because basically this is not a number. Let's try it. So if this was ABC, okay. So you can see invalid literal for integer, because this is not an integer itself. How can I convert it? Okay, if I write hello, can hello be converted? No, it cannot be. But if I write 2.0, it can be. 2.0 is actually a floating point, like I wanted to write an integer. So it can, the 2 can be converted into an integer. For example, if I write 5, this also can be. So if I write it in float, this can be converted into float. But if I write a number, for example, say hi, it is not a number, this is a string, so it cannot be converted. It will give an error, could not convert to the string. But anything can be converted into a string. So if we have a number like 5, so we can convert it into a string. Okay, we need to define, I think it's capital S or something like that. Sometimes you will get these errors and you will have to figure okay how it is spelled and things like that. So you can convert these into strings and things. You have to write a little bit of code for that. So that I want to bore that things, but simple concept was that I want to introduce you with the typecasting. By typecasting I mean typecasting, or what we call it data conversion as well, to convert one data type to another data type. That's the goal. Then sometimes we need to take multiple inputs. For example, if we give a statement, this is a car, and we want these things to separate, and we have a method for that, split. If you see what split method does is, it will split our input. For example, if I go in here, so here we have a text. This is a sentence and I want to split it. By split I mean wherever the space is, I want to get these things separately. So what I'll do is I'll just call this function split on this. You're not again seeing the screen, now you are seeing it. So text here is, this is a sentence that I want to split. Okay. So my thing is that I want to get all of these words separately. मैं इनको एक एक करके चाहता हूँ. I don't want it to be a whole string. I want these to be separated. So यहाँ पे ये space is separated. Now I want them to be separate. So मैं यहाँ पे क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'll call a function split. If you see it, यहाँ पे मैं split use कर रहा हूँ. So for example, if I just print the words now, I'll just comment out this much of code. So you can see. Now you can see that this is a separate input. Now is a separate thing, a is a separate. Now I have access to all of these separately. Okay. So this is how we can use split methods in order to split an input. If somebody gives an input and I want to split it separately, so you can use this split method for that. Okay. So again, you can split it using commas. If you can see the John, comma, DOE, comma, 30, New York. So if I want to split, it's called a delimiter. Here the delimiter is a space. So space is actually distinguishing, we are distinguishing these things by space character. So here we have comma, so we can just mention comma is a delimiter here, so you need to separate it via this comma. So I'll just comment this one out and I'll just use this. So here you can see John is now separated. What if we use a space in here? Because there is no space, so it won't separate it. You can see it. This is just one string till here, and there is a space in New York, that's why it separately wrote York. Am I clear what this string method does? What the split method does? Basically it splits whatever the input is. Okay.